through sustainability. Just a little brief on how we at NIFT are dealing with the subject. Sustainability separately, and of course, entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial success differently. Um, in our curriculum for most of our courses, entrepreneurship has become a focus area. Um, and we are encouraging our students to get into more and more entrepreneurial ventures. This also keeps in track with what the government policies are of Make in India, of making things, creating things within the country, and of course, self-sustainability. The sustainability models that we are dealing with as technology students, as design students, as management students, we are trying to inculcate in them the basics of sustainability so that they can take it into the industry as they grow older, take it into the industry and spread the word, because sustainability is a key factor of how we are going to survive today. Today's session is going to be focusing on policies and practices. So we have people on the panel who are policy heads, people who are actually helping in making of the policies which deal with this subject, and also some people who practice it on a day-to-day basis. So here's looking forward to a very fruitful session. I hand over to Ms. Girija Jha to take you through and introduce you to our panelists.
Thank you so much, Bhavna ma'am. Professor Bhavna is a professor in the Department of Fashion Technology at NIFT Delhi, and also the campus academic coordinator. Thank you so much for the insight into how we deal with sustainability on NIFT Delhi campus and the relevance of the topic we are discussing today. So very quickly, I will take you through a short profile of our speakers, though words will definitely fall short while I introduce them. To begin with, the moderator of our session today is Dr. Nian Mitra. Dr. Mitra is adjudged as one of the 25 most impactful CSR leaders in India in the year 2019. She also has Exceptional Women of Excellence at the Women Economic Forum the very same year. She has been a finalist of Chevening Gurukul Scholarship for Leadership and Excellence by British Deputy High Commission. She is the recipient of prestigious Author Award for the India CSR Leadership Summit for the last 3 years in a row, hat-trick. Editor for great books which have been published with Springer publisher, and in the domain of CSR with very promising titles like Indian CSR Leadership Summit, and a lot many other titles have been her achievement in the last few years. She has been spearheading the Indian CSR Leadership Interview Series by India CSR. She works closely with organizations like CII, ICC, FICCI, BCC, IMA, CRB, WEF, etc. Having a PhD in the subject of CSR and having 20 years of diverse professional experience, she straddles seamlessly between academics, social, and corporate sectors. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Nayan. Thank you, ma'am. Next on the panel, we have Ms. Archana Vashisht Panda, who is the Operations Manager and Lead Accreditation Auditor for SAS, Social Accountability Accreditation Services, New York. She has been involved very recently in development of COVID-19 SaaS alternative audit process requirements, which is very, very relevant in today's context. With an academic background of industrial engineering and industrial safety, she has been associated with Bureau Veritas as the product manager in South Asia region, and a rich 20 years of industrial teaching and management of the system audit experience. She has been conducting audits in this domain and has conducted almost 3,000 audits across the country. And she has worked in projects involving implementation of social accountability, social fingerprint with waste pickers in Mumbai to improve and impact their lives and livelihood. A very warm welcome, Archana ma'am. Also on panel, we have Ms. Hina Khalid, who is a multifaceted personality, a teacher, a founder of Kaju Maldives and Kaju Institute, a designer who owns a brand Love Bud and was adjudged the third best designer in the famous He and She Maldives show. An artist, a choreographer. She has won National Youth Award in 2003, which is an honorary award received by the President. She is also a fellow of the Royal Institute of Management, Singapore. She has worked with WHO for the Waste Management Environment Program and also worked with many projects of UNDP, UNICEF, IMF, World Bank, and a few other organizations. A very warm welcome, Ms. Hina. Warm welcome. On the panel, we do have another very influential budding entrepreneur who has used katran, the clippings of fabric, the bits of fabric, to create and transform into a brand by the name Katran. This label started off with a very novel idea of recycling and upcycling the waste and the bit, and today has been very successful in displaying their collection at very promising platforms like for HUL Mumbai. She has displayed her collection and exhibition in Austria, also displayed in Maker Fair Rome, Italy, in Lakme Fashion Week, to name a few, and the list goes on. Also, she was successfully, she has finished the Cherry Blair Foundation program for women in terms of incubation of women who were deprived economically. And she has trained them in terms of craft to give them better employability in the sector. So her expanse, not her professional proficiency has not only been proven in establishing a brand, but also in social uplifting of the needy women. Very warm welcome, Ms. Swati. Thank you for joining us. And we have on panel Mr. Nelson Ignoma, who is an entrepreneur and also an intrapreneur. He has worked previously with technology companies and also done social impact awareness programs with New York-based companies, and also an Indian firm in Tamil Nadu. He has various community alliances and has done phenomenally in domains of workshops, trainings, and has been a very, very important player in his own domain. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Nelson. In case I have missed on any achievement of yours, please apologize me. We do have a little dearth of time. Thank you, and a very warm welcome to all of you. I hand over the session to Dr. Nian Mitra, who is the moderator for the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Girija, and thank you, Bhavna. Hi, it's so good to see you all. Welcome to this online session by NIFT New Delhi. We have been through uncertain times, strange times that has completely changed our way of perceiving things. It is a new beginning, which also means it is the end of what has been. What is now commencing from this mayhem is a brand new world order with a more sustainable approach. Through these sessions, we will understand what sustainability is, how it can be made into an enterprise. We have some of the finest speakers and practitioners in the next 2 days who would be sharing their experiences with us. I am Dr. Nian Mitra, Founder Director of Sustainable Advancements, OPC Private Limited, and I have the honor of moderating this session. But before that, I will be deliberating on what sustainable organizations are and that it is the need of the hour right now, and my entrepreneurial journey. I'll share a presentation with you. So my topic today is on sustainable organizations, the need of the hour. The learning outcomes the learning outcomes of my session are to understand what sustainability is, to understand what sustainable organizations are, why is it important to have sustainable organizations, and my case study of sustainable advancements and interactional learning, of course. So let's start. What is sustainability? Sustainability means to live and to let live, to live on. The concept has been around since 1994 when John Elkington first coined the term triple bottom line, which was for the longest time known as the sustainability framework. However, it had a myopic vision and only spoke of planet, people, and profit, whereas the Sustainable Development or the SDGs, as put forward by the United Nations, that came into force from the year 2016 after the MDGs, broadly spoke of the 5 Ps that are key to sustainability. And these are planet, people, prosperity, peace, and partnership. While the MDGs had a myopic agenda and only tackled the indignity of poverty, the SDGs believe in an integrated approach to support progress across the multiple goals. It lays down 17 goals for the world's future, and that is backed up by a set of 169 detailed targets. But what is new and different about the 17 goals of the SDGs? They are universal in nature, they integrate different problems, and are transformational in nature. Interestingly, all these 17 goals are important by themselves as well as connected. Then what are sustainable organizations? John Elkington opined that organizations should aim to achieve triple bottom line, which are social, environmental, and economical goals. Only attaining 1 or 2 will limit the organization from becoming sustainable. For example, only attaining social and environmental goals will make the organization bearable, while achieving social and economic goals will make it equitable. Environmental and economic goals will merely make it more viable. Only when all 3 goals are achieved does one organization really become sustainable. However, in 2018, when I met him at a conference in Cologne, Germany, he refuted this 25-year-old theory. It then came out in the Harvard Business Review as well. The reasons are many, but mainly those 3 ceased to be enough. It was necessary to integrate 2 more bottom lines, peace and partnership, as per the UN SDGs. So, the sustainable organizations then caters. So what should be the orientation of a sustainable organization? They should cater to a universal need or demand by integrating the planet, people, prosperity, peace, and partnership, and bring about transformation in the way of life and living. And why is it so important to do this? Because sustainable organization tries to solve a key universal problem. It integrates the forces that are both the reason for the problem as well as a solution. It is focused on impact orientation rather than merely profit orientation. And moreover, it transforms the world into a better place. Now I'll come to for additional resources, you can look into some material here. Now I will come across my organization. I have a woman-owned micro enterprise, Sustainable Advancements, OPC Private Limited, that broadly aims to promote the 5 Ps of the SDGs through a 2-pronged approach. advocacy, and implementation. We aim to bridge the gap between ideas and action, communities and businesses, India and the rest of the world. Our vision is to bring together and work in collaboration with the different stakeholders in the society for the society to bring about peace, prosperity, and continuity. Hence, we work with corporates, universities, civil societies, individuals, and communities where we drive the common agenda of sustainability. We have some expert committee members and partners with whom we work closely. On one hand, we conduct coaching, documentation, research, publication on sustainability and CSR. On the other hand, we work with various disadvantaged communities. We empower them and raise their standard of living through livelihood generation. We work with over 100 women-led micro enterprises in the rural segment. Our biggest strength is that we have a niche clientele just like our company, but a loyal set of customers who really care and also spread the word. And this helps us to create impact at multinational, multi-stakeholder level. Each of our products give out a message, hence they are known as impact bags. We can customize them as well. Our books, publications, researches are well accepted by both international and national fraternity, which gives us faith that there is collective thinking and that transformation is really happening. In the last few years, we have worked on issues regarding but not limited to circular economy, corporate social responsibility, sustainable organizations, construction, mining, to name a few. Indeed, this is a niche segment. People need more awareness. It is not an easy journey, but incredibly exciting. We need more and more entrepreneurs in this field who can dare to dream for themselves as well as for the world. To know more, please log on to www.sustainableadvancements.com, or you can write to mitra.noyon@gmail.com. These are some of our books which we have published in recent times. Thank you. Now, I will now request Archana to speak on how entrepreneurs can take note of SAS.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nanji. So I will just share my presentation.
Archana?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Right. So first of all, I would like to thank NIFT and especially Girija ji for connecting me to NIFT and giving me this opportunity to participate in this webinar today. And I want to share my thoughts with you all on the topic that has been given to me, which is entrepreneurial success through sustainability. And under this, I'm going to be speaking about creating sustainable enterprises through social accountability. So just to give you a very brief introduction of our organization, which is Social Accountability International. uh, the main mission and vision of our organization is basically advancing human rights at workplace, and also we envision a world where workers, business and communities thrive together. So basically it is about social sustainability. sorry, the cursor is a little slow. Okay. Yeah. So again, very briefly about the various programs that we have under Social Accountability International. However, given the topic to me today, policies and procedure and practices, I will be, focusing more on two of these products, which are or services, I would say, which are, the standard SA8000 standard, which is an international standard, and also about social fingerprint. These are the two things that I will be focusing more upon, and also I will just touch upon the other other programs that we have. Talking about the standard S8000. So considering again today's theme of policies and practices, at SAI, the standard social accountability S8000, uh, you know, we believe that first of all, the standard is based on, the universally acceptable workplace practices, such as Universal Declaration of Human Rights, International Labour Organization conventions, and UN guiding principles. So, if we talk about policies and at large, and these are international organizations and policies made by them. So SAI has adopted these some of these conventions and principles and adopted them into the standard, which is again accepted internationally by all the brands and all the governments and across the globe. uh, Now, this, the standard which created by SAI was in 1997, and it is world's leading certification program. This requires an organization to, first of all, commit to these principles which are embedded in this standard, and then embrace those principles and the requirements, integrate them into their own policies and practices, and implement them. Once that is done, the organization uh, comply to the requirements of the international standard, and they go in for a third party certification. Now, in order to give entire quality assurance to this whole program of certification, we have something called as SaaS, which is SaaS within SAI again as a division, which is only responsible for taking care of the quality assurance of this certification program, again across the globe, and thereby giving credibility to this program and assurance to the stakeholders and interested parties about the certification program. This the certification program of S8000, it provides a roadmap and a credible holistic framework, and allows organizations of all types in any industry and in any country to demonstrate their dedication to a fair treatment of workers and employees. For assuring credibility of social certification, as I said, we have SAS, which is again independently management division of SAI, which conducts quality assurance of social certification program. And SAS supports social responsibility and accountability by ensuring a high quality and consistent implementation of credible systems, which are designed to protect people and their communities. SAS evaluates and accredits auditing organizations to assure they are qualified to hold their clients accountable to social standards. So when I say this, I mean the certification bodies or certifying organizations which are carrying out third party certifications, they need to gain accreditation from SAS in order to carry on with their auditing and certification program across the globe. Coming to the second, program that I'm going to speak about is Social Fingerprint, which is again a very impactful program. Now, when I talk about SA8000 standard, as I said, it is based on all the UN guiding principles, ILO conventions. The requirements are quite lengthy and also very high level of requirement, which every organization may not be ready to be, especially the small enterprises, in countries like India. Now, those who are not ready to for certification, but at the same time they want to be part of the global supply chain, maybe at the lower ladder of the supply chain. So they can actually embrace this program, which is Social Fingerprint, which is basically a kind of a rating system. And I will take you through that. It is a rating system, so even if you are at level 0, you can still start from 0, from scratch. You reach level 1, and then with some improvement over a period of time, you go to various levels, and you again achieve at level 5. uh, Also, SAI has other programs like training and capacity building, which we have been doing across the globe. I will take you to that also little bit. And again, an important program that we have is about Global Living Wage Coalition. uh, this is about, again, a living wage, uh, because we believe that the minimum wage decided by the governments is not just enough, not sustainable for the workers. And therefore a living wage, which is a decent living wage or a living income for the family, to be able to sustain a decent life. So in countries like especially India, we all know how minimum wage are, and especially after this pandemic, the situation of workers is really, really bad. I'm sure all of us know. And therefore these programs become all the more important for countries like India, in order to embrace these, and also to be able to be credible in terms of adhering to the global supply chain, and still demonstrating that, look, these are the things we practice, and these are the policies and practices based on international standards, and therefore we deserve to get some orders, and the buyers of other countries take our companies seriously. uh, Talking a little more about this international standard SA 8000. As I said earlier, this is based on the UN Declaration of Human Rights and UN Guiding Principles, ILO conventions. This has all these elements of SA 8000, which are 9, which are shown here, like child labor, forced or compulsory labor, health and safety requirements, freedom of association and right to collective bargaining, discrimination, disciplinary practices, working hours, remuneration, and management system. Now, the management system, which is the last clause itself, differentiates the standard from any other code of practice standard, which is a checklist kind of audits. So this is basically a management system approach, and it is a management system standard. Within the management system, there is something called as risk assessment, and again, grievance handling mechanism. So all that is a part of management system. It also requires the organizations, enterprises, to identify their non-compliances themselves by monitoring. And the non-compliances could be on any of these aspects, the other elements of the standard, and identify them, capture them, do the root cause analysis, and take corrective actions and preventive actions. So therefore, it differentiates from other code of conduct, checklist based audits. Uh, if I can just, uh, I'm not sure if you're able to see the screen fully. The Indian impact I had tried to show how many companies are certified. So more than 1,000 companies in India are certified for the standard. We have clients in 23 states in India, which includes union territories as well, and also 33 industry sectors are represented, and the majority are from textile and garment sector, because it is mandatory for some of these garment export companies and textile companies to demonstrate their commitment to these international standards, in order to again be a part of the global supply chain, and to demonstrate to their buyers and get audited. uh, uh, so more than 6.5 lakhs of employees are covered by the standard, by the certification program. You can also see that the standard sort of it helps you or contributes towards the SDGs. You can see at the bottom of the slide, SDG 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and 10. So all these elements of the standard are contributing towards the SDGs as well. The second program I was referring to is Social Fingerprint. So in SAI, we believe that every company has a social fingerprint, which means a unique mark they leave on the world, telling everybody how they do business. Now, if you cannot improve, you can't improve, unless you measuring and then monitoring and then focusing, which gives you an improvement. So the social fingerprint basically is, again, as I said earlier in the introduction, this is a rating based program. And here you can see all the elements of the standard are listed here, and for every standard there is a set of questionnaire, and based on that every company can do their own assessment, and then it can be done by an independent third party as well. And once you have you can start from one where there's absolutely no awareness, no program in place, but just a commitment from the management of the company to embrace this. Then comes partial development. Then level 3 is again development of management system, but which is not fully implemented. And then we have level 4, which is again a management system which is implemented well. And then level 5, which is a fully matured management system. So when I was talking about, in the introduction, Ms. Girija mentioned about the waste pickle project. So we were doing this social fingerprint for the waste pickle project, and it has been very successfully done in Brazil. Most of the waste picker cooperatives in Brazil are having this social fingerprint implemented. They have achieved, they started with level 1, 2, and now at level 3, and some of the waste picker organizations have also gone into certification of S8000. This is again an example of that. So SAI is part of IWRC. IWRC is Inclusive Waste Recycling Consortium, which means advancing health and well-being for the waste pickers, while connecting them to the companies in need of ethical sourced recycled material. This is a digitally enabled platform for buying and selling of social fingerprinted recycled material, and it enables people first circular economy, connecting brands in need of recycled material with social responsibility, waste picking cooperatives, and improving health and safety, financial well-being of waste pickers in the process. If you can see on the slide, the pictures, before implementing social fingerprint, you could see how, the lady is sitting and just doing, she's not using any personal protective equipments, and sitting on a floor. And this is the way, directly exposed to the waste. And when I was doing this project in Mumbai, believe me, I have, worked with them. The kind of life they live, very, very pathetic. And my heart goes out to them, and I wonder what must be happening to them right now during this pandemic, because absolutely no signs of social distancing, no PPEs. And, the day they work, they earn some little bit of living. And when they don't work, they have nothing to take home. So when we implement this social fingerprint, and which has been successfully done in Brazil, we have just started in India. You can see how things have improved. And of course, because of the shortage of time, I did not have too much to show, but then you can just see in the slide itself how much of difference of, when we talk about workplace safety and living conditions at the workplace itself, so much of difference. This is just about health and safety, which is visible on the slide. However, even the take home salary or the wages, and, so many other things, including, access to washrooms, that itself was a challenge in India. So such are the, so many things that can happen when you use social fingerprint, because these waste pickers organizations cannot afford to go for S8000 standard, which is a very high level standard. Therefore, social fingerprint helps them to, have some kind of a ladder where they can just climb up. As I said in the beginning, I will also be just touching upon a little bit on the other programs like Living Wage Coalition I spoke about. So some of the big organizations and brands, have got together to, work on this. And it's very difficult because, you have to pay more than minimum wages, which is not possible. And a lot of, but then again, this is a very, very scientific based, methodology. statistics and scientific based metrology, and slowly it really helps. And then one realizes, the entrepreneurs, they realize that it may be a matter of just 10 cents per piece, but it makes a difference in the life of a worker to some extent. So again, there are a lot of mindsets and roadblocks, but then slowly when we sit down and we implement these projects, it really helps to improve the lives of the workers. Other corporate programs customized to help the corporates to manage their global supply chains, like you may be having the headquarters in Europe or America, but then the supply chains are mainly in China or India, and managing them and ensuring that all of them comply to maybe at least social fingerprint, if not the standard. It really helps them sitting in their headquarters and still be assured of the supply chains are well managed. This is just one more program, which is a 10 squared program. This is such a wonderful program. It is basically a 100-day program done on any issue which may be in the company. And some of the workers form a team, and they themselves find their own solution for the problem that they identify. And just to give you an example, this has been very, as it is mentioned, it has been successfully done again in Brazil, China, and Turkey. And in one of the Brazilian company, the saving, again, it was related to health and safety of worker injury, and the saving was USD 120,000 each year. In a Chinese company, it reduced its evacuation time from 12 to 3 minutes. So again, improvement on health and safety. In a Turkish company, Turkish team reduced the occurrence of limb trauma accidents by half. A Brazilian company decreased employee absenteeism by 60%, increasing productivity by 12% during peak season. So such are, great examples of, very specific time-bound programs like this. These are some of our corporate members and partners, with whom we've done such programs. Training and capacity building, again, related to these programs, and especially the standard is 8,000 and social fingerprint, we have a 5-day course and a 3-day course, and it's mentioned we cover so many courses and in so many countries, and these days during pandemic, virtual courses are going on. These are our training participants where we have performed trainings. So that's it for my side. Thank you very much. If anybody has any question, or if anybody wants to contact me, thank you. Thank you, Ninj.
Thank you very much, Archana. That was extremely informative, so much to learn. So social enterprise or sustainable enterprise, it is not just about, theory. There's so much of science behind it. That's the exciting part here. Now, I would request Hina Khalid to please share your experience with us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, NFP, for giving me the opportunity to participate here. I will just share my. Is it? Sorry. Yeah. I hope. Can you view my presentation? Just. All right. This webinar, the 3 by Entrepreneurial Success through Sustainability, on this day, 30th June, held at National Institute of Fashion Technology, is from New Delhi. So the topic given for me is moving from waste generating to regenerating apparel industry, people, or brand. The waste need to go away. So my bird says it shows that it's not done yet. So to really go from here, I am from Maldives, and I just want to show you where Maldives in the in Indian Ocean, that you can see on the screen where Maldives is. So just want to highlight that's how it's like jewels in when you see from above, you'll see like jewels above. And I just want to give a brief information about my country, as since it is very different from India, and we need a lot to learn from that, especially on sustainability and also about managing waste and thinking about how the apparel industry, the brand people in can be attended to the whole community. The problem we have is our main industry is tourism, so development of other things are a bit hasty for us at this time. So at the chosen topic, I have looked into some. My presentation, I'm just having a little bit of difficulty. Yeah, according to research, the clothing production doubled from 2000 to 2014, and the number of garments purchased each year by the average consumes increased by 60% and now more. And undoubtedly, fashion has a global impact on the economy and the whole environment. In 2017, the European Parliament adopted a resolution on EU flagship initiative on the garment sector, and that is according to the European Parliament 2017, where it asked the European Commission to strengthen its commitment in particular to develop EU legal framework, including measures of due diligence obligations for supply chains in the garment sector and measure to strengthen supply chain transparency and traceability. And it's time for us all to keep the standards and put a framework to work together. As Maldives, from my country point of view, we are very new to this, but I know I have been attending some workshop seminars in India, and I know with immense, work done there, I think we can learn a lot from there. So I will be seeking and looking forward for the assistance. Now, zero waste model combined with a textile disposal ban in Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia municipalities might look to the city of Vancouver, which is working towards a zero waste model, which is with this research, if we go through, we know we can get a lot of information. I haven't done any such in here, and Maldives, hardly we have many in regard to fashion industry, so I am sharing other countries. And to the city of San Francisco, which is actively using a zero waste model, including a textile disposal ban. With that, within San Francisco, committed to zero waste, the city consistently works with charities, allowing Goodwill, for example, to have textile donation bins in most residential buildings across the city. And after going through it, I knew that we could utilize similar in here as well. And when we think of the whole process, I think right now what is important is to go forward to circular economy. Circular economy, as written by Valentina Giacometti, the fashion industry has to play an important role in the path towards sustainability and their circular economy. Indeed, the fashion industry is a sector with a high environment impact, and it's a long and complicated supply chain which is associated with larger consumption of water and energy, use of chemicals, substances, water and air pollution, waste production, and finally microplastic generation. In particular, textiles and clothing waste has become a huge global concern. Again, with all this happening, the background, this paper looks at, aims at they analyzing the EU measures that have an impact on development of sustainable practices and the transition to a circular economy in the fashion industry, with a particular focus on EU revised legislative framework on waste adopted within the Circular Economy Action Plan. So what I suggest is that there is this is a needy area for us. And then right now I'm concentrating on my research a lot on tourism and circular economy, looking into different angles, hoping to bring up some new findings to the knowledge base. And I wanted to share something simple, like design is simple with less material. this I just thought I will share it. This is just some uh, something that I have done. I thought I need to show something simply how it can be done when I take a session. This is something I have done. It's like I've used this is a baby pillowcase set where I have used uh, materials from a long time at the white and then brought this and did it simply, but and to bring a good look to the whole thing. So what you can do is ask not to use too much of stuff but make it simple and do it. And this material, when we really I'm just going to the lay people where they will simplicity matters and for not wasting this. I just want to show this is a material where you can see the logo, the company name in it. I didn't want to waste it. You know, what I did was, as in here, I covered it up with another similar same material, covering it up and then finishing up, not showing anything, like no difference in it. So with just half a yard of material, I'm able to bring a simple, nice top similar to what I am wearing now. So it starts from very small things. You need to be in action. We as people need to show that we care for the community, we care for the environment, we care for the world. So it's by action people will understand more. So this just piece of top I was able to make exactly with a half yard, and same as what I'm wearing today. There's no difference in it. So I think it's time for all countries to put action for a circular economy. That is more important for me to think realistically. As similarly as you know, I have been working on different fields, different areas. As a woman, it is a very big challenge because from the small population we have compared to India and other countries, we we are still learning, and there's a lot of scope for us to learn from all of you, especially those the members in here. And what I think is what we need is a holistic approach. That is where the holistic approach, and to understand the moving from waste generation to regenerative apparel industry, the people of brand. So what the suggestion is, the solution for these, for now, the best solution could be the circular economy, and then going forward with it and do individually start from very little. Do just do a little things that could make a ripple effect, and help the whole industry and the world and the economics, and protecting our environment. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Hina. That was awesome. Of course, yes, we have to be kind to the environment. We cannot only take, we need to give back. The mantra now is to reduce, revisit, reuse, regenerate. And each one
Yes.
are important in this. It's a journey. No, each one have to do, we have to do our part. Even the small thing like a mask, now it's mandatory for all of us to, wear masks.
Yeah.
Now,
I was about to talk about it as well tonight, and I should say here, it was very nice meeting you and getting introduced to this whole concept, and knowing that you are actually, I could say, a leader for me to promote sustainability, which is something I learned. And understanding, being somebody from a very big family, from a family of 9, there's always the scope, to limit things and to make the best of everything. So for me, the whole project of circular economy is the whole way forward. Even for the clothes and fashion industry is
yes.
what I could say.
Interestingly, Hina, and also goes out to everybody here. Interestingly, India has a very rich heritage of circularity, in the sense we kind of reuse almost everything, from our newspapers to everything. But because it is so much ingrained within our system, it has lost its novelty value. So that is something which, all of us should try to bring it back and, make it more make a fad. So, okay, coming to next, we have Nelson, of course, and Nelson now will be speaking on jointly pursuing sustainability and profit at the same time in ventures. So, Nelson, look forward to hearing to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nelson Igunma, and I'm from Saucy Ventures. So thank you all for hanging on this long. I'll try not to take too much time, and thank you to the NIF team for inviting me to this session today. So the theme of today's session is entrepreneurial success through sustainability, and my experience with that has been as an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur, working in operational roles with startups, social enterprises, and tech startups in the United States, in India, and in Southeast Asia. And my interest right now is very much on focusing on increasing investment in emerging markets, increasing support for entrepreneurs in emerging markets, and making sure that investors everywhere at every level understand more about what entrepreneurs in India and other emerging markets are doing so that they can provide support that the entrepreneurs actually need. So I wanted to start with the idea that, like, what exactly sustainability is. We heard a definition of the term earlier, but it is important to emphasize that it isn't just about the environment, right? It's about, and I define environment broadly. And the environment can be natural, it could be built, or it could even be digital, because the way that we interact with each other online is very different from the way that we interact with each other offline. So here is an image of the Sustainable Development Goals. For those of you who don't know, these were 17 goals that were developed by the UN a few years ago to succeed the Millennium Development Goals. And they're meant to address issues of sustainability in a holistic sense, right? Not just about the physical spaces that we live in, but how we live there, who lives there, who can live there, and then how we can actually benefit from this planet that we live on now and moving forward. And frankly, sustainability, what we think about it or don't think about it and what we do, affects our quality of life socially, economically, psychologically. And so what I'm interested in is like promoting a comprehensive view of sustainability as reflected in the SDGs and even beyond. Because even though these are global goals, they have relevance to people in rural areas, different relevance to people in rural areas versus urban areas, in India versus other countries. And that makes me think about some questions that should guide you, for those of you on this call, whether you are looking to pursue jobs, whether you are looking to start up your own ventures, whether you're investors or just enthusiasts about fashion and sustainability. You should be thinking about, how can what I do benefit me? You know, how can it benefit the people that I know? And how can it benefit people I don't know or who don't know me? And that really speaks to thinking beyond profit and thinking beyond your own view of the world, which no matter how much any of us has traveled, how many languages we speak, we all have our limitations and biases in terms of how we view the world and interact with each other. I would say, like, just to transition into value chains and supply chains, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, think of supply chains as very much focused on, say, outsourcing or manufacturing or kind of physical products and not really about services. And I guess this would be a typical image of, you know, maybe what a lot of us learned about supply chains. It would be relevant. This kind of map would be relevant for someone who's producing a phone or is producing clothing or is producing makeup. And it's very linear, right? Manufacturers, to distributors, to retailers, to the end users. But that provides a very limited view of how the products and services that we develop, how they actually impact us, how they impact our organizations, and how they impact other stakeholders. And that leads me to value chains, you know, which operate at multiple levels. You know, they can be local, regional, global, you know, regardless of what everyone on this call is thinking about doing, whether they want to start a fashion line that will be globally recognized, or, you know, they want to work with rag pickers in one particular community. Whatever you're doing, however, for whoever you're doing it for, you are part of a value chain, and that can be local, regional, or local. or global. And that includes functions beyond the direct supply chain. That includes functions like human resources and people management, like legal, like finance. We heard earlier a little bit about people management, but it's not just about, the people and the processes that lead to the direct production of the product. And I do really believe that value chains have to include people. There are any number of resources that you guys have heard so far, and even that you'll hear tomorrow about how to track the quality of a product, how to track the provenance of a product, track who's producing it or not, track whether it's ethically produced. But products and services don't just come out of nowhere. They do include people, and we have to think about that. Not just our customers, who are paying for a product, but users, including people who may not be paying for it. Not everyone who buys a piece of clothing is necessarily buying it for themselves, right? So even if someone is buying it, if they're buying it for someone else, you have to think about how that benefits both the person who's buying it and the person who will ultimately wear it. And say even after it's recycled or disposed, how that affects the environment, how that affects communities, and how that affects the environment in a traditional sense. That also includes our vendors, employees, and their representatives like trade unions. It includes regulators and civil society, and even the public. Even if you are developing what you think is a local or niche product, even if you think that what you're doing will have limited impact, it doesn't. What is happening in India affects what is happening in Southeast Asia, affects what's happening in East Africa, and affects what's happening in the US, where I'm from. So I'll just settle on this last slide, just a little more. I would say that in general, value chains are more of a constellation of stakeholders and processes, right? They're not necessarily a straight line, and they're always reinforcing themselves. And as we saw in the last presentation, especially if you're thinking about the circular economy or things like upcycling, that means that you have to actively think about how your product or service will generate value, or at least not increase harm beyond its initial use. And that actually includes cultural fluency and sensitivity, even if that's in the same country. I'm currently in Delhi, but as a foreigner, and as a guy living in Delhi, I have my own limitations about the lives of people who are living in rural areas, who are living in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And that really leads to what we're doing at Southie Ventures. The website is listed on this slide, which is about venture building, bringing a venture building model to India, really assessing on a deeper level, what is it that entrepreneurs in India are trying to do? How are they trying to scale or replicate their ventures? How are they trying to get support? And aligning that with what investors are looking for, and realizing that the way that someone starts up in San Francisco or New York can be different than the way someone starts up and sustains their venture in Delhi or Mumbai, which can be different than the way that someone starts up and sustains themselves in Bhubaneswar or Bhopal or Dehradun. And at Southie, we really aim to take not just a high-level view of what entrepreneurs are trying to do, but actually, encourage the cultural competencies so that people, regardless of where you're located, that you're receiving the support that you need. I would say in terms of next steps, we saw in a previous presentation a reference to Social Accountability International, and they have great resources that I've used personally. I would also recommend looking at the B-Lab, B-Assessment, which provides an assessment about the kind of internal impact your venture is doing. I think for those of us on this webinar who may consider ourselves social entrepreneurs, there's so much emphasis on the external impact, but you also have to think about how, again, your employees, your vendors, part-time, full-time, volunteer, even interns, how they're doing and how they're sustaining themselves. You don't want to have a situation where you're generating impact for external stakeholders, but your team internally is overworked or underpaid or even exploited. And I think that that includes expanding the idea of what we consider to be a quality product or service, and that the quality is not just about that a quality company. It's not just about generating revenue or even thinking about scalability, but thinking about what your impact is on a ground level. I don't know how many of you on this call know who Kylie Jenner is, maybe everyone, but she recently had controversy because her company outsourced production to a company in Bangladesh that has been dealing with some serious environmental and labor relations issues. And, you know, even for a young woman, almost a billionaire living in California, it's not enough to say, well, I've outsourced these operations to X company or Y vendor, and so I don't know. You have to know, just like you have to know who's coming into.
I completely agree with you, Nelson, on this. Whenever we think of having an entrepreneurial setting, then we need to also think about this entire value chain and end-to-end encryption, as we say. So it's not enough just to have a company or to just think in terms of innovation. It is important to think in terms of the whole gamut of it, from sourcing, production, marketing, to disposal and reuse, and everything that goes, the accreditation and everything that goes around with it.
Right. And that starts with research, but it continues with action. And so for those of you who want to follow up, my information is here. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Nelson. We look forward to hearing Swati. Yes, Swati will, again, it's another very exciting discussion. I'm looking forward to it on circular economy. She's done so much. Yes, Swati, please.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you, the NIF team and everyone for inviting me today. Everybody has actually mentioned such beautiful stories. So I'll quickly take you through what I do. And I will, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll just take you through the work that I do quickly so that, I'm not boring anyone, because, everybody has shared such good statistics and such good, pointers and all of that. As in my heart is that of an artist. So I have just tried to put a lot of visuals and a lot of, thought process that goes actually into my mind as well. So talking briefly about what I do, I basically, there are some two pillars to what my work is. My label is called Katran, and it literally translates to the tiny bits of fabric which is discarded in the garment production process. There are two pillars. One is we look at waste, the textile waste, and we upcycle that to make functional products. And second is that we empower women. So women from low-income communities who want to get out of their shell and, who want to make something more substantial out of their lives. So we look at them and then we train and empower them, right? So moving on to the basic projects that we work on. So skill training is one project where we train these women from various communities in India. We've trained women in Tamil Nadu, in Maharashtra, and in and around Delhi. And we've trained them around how they could utilize, after the basic tailoring skills which have been provided to them by my NGO partners who actually identify the bunches of women. So after, they learn how to work on textiles and work on basic tailoring skills, there is a lot of textile waste that they generate. So, they look at that waste and then we help them in converting that waste into more functional products. So, this is actually, India is probably Indian roots, has probably, we know how to upcycle, we know how to, utilize the last bit of fabric, and it's already there in us. So my idea of launching this label was to kind of revive that and make it a regular practice for everyone. So after the skill training and identifying a group of people who could work on the products, we look at the retail chain. So first, the retail segment of our company. Our first product is saris, and that basically, as you can see, it utilizes the maximum, dimension of the fabric, right? So a sari is 5.5 meters. So that much fabric has to be kind of utilized. So we use bits of fabric. Now, in this case, the bits of fabric, we get lucky in the process of collecting waste fabric from designers and from export houses and from local tailors, that, the dead stock fabric, which hasn't been shredded down to pieces, right? So that gets utilized to make the yardage of fabric, which, in turn becomes our sari. Next, we look at the stoles. stoles is further, reduced pieces. And then the tiny bits of, these birdies that you see in between, they are just like highlights to what we make. So we add value to our products by adding these textile kind of tassels and intricate kind of designs, and then we in turn convert them into textile jewelry, right? So literally, if you can see that, we are utilizing the last breath, of the fabric. Corporate gifting is one segment that we look at after retail, where instead of giving those those tacky plastic corporate gifts, which was kind of popular probably in the 90s, or probably a little after that as well. We are kind of replacing that with textile products, so like tote bags, where the folders, or the other kind of gifts, or the photo frames or things like that, which are given away to the the participants of, let's say, a conference. They would be getting, let's say, a tote bag along with the little hamper. So these are some of the products that we work on, like laptop sleeves, tabletop accessories, desk organizers. They can also be used as planters, coasters. So all of these products are made by the women we train. And we have been working with a lot of women. And once they start working on this, initially, of course, we faced a lot of hiccups, that people, the women who were working on the project, were not quite happy with the fact that there's so much time which goes into making a single product. Because if you compare a cushion cover made out of a virgin fabric, versus you compare it with bits of fabric, first you have to make a yardage out of, and then you have to convert that into a product. Of course, there's so much time and effort which goes into it in planning and construction. So initially we were facing that, but then eventually they kind of they fell in love with the art of upcycling. And then the absolute tiny bits of fabric, then they get utilized into making installations and things like rugs, and artworks. So these are some of the works which we have made. And we continue to add that pop of color into homes and events. So I'll just quickly, so this was a one of the installations which was put up at TED. Again, some bits of fabric which have been utilized. And then, as you can see, the excitement is when people actually get excited to see installations like this. So that's the thing that we earn out of all of this. This is a basic flow chart of how I thought I should share that how skill training projects actually function, and how the retail garment products that we make, how they also kind of come into being, where we collect fabric from design houses, export houses, and the likes, like I have mentioned before. And then we segregate segregate the fabric waste to make the different kind of products which I have mentioned before. And I would just want to kind of now take you to the fact that uh, as a designer, I have studied design formally. And initially it was kind of not very clear, and I've been working on the concept of sustainability probably from childhood, because I remember I used to have a cupboard, and I used to store the little pieces of trash here and there. How we studied geometry when we were little, and we had glazed paper, we used to cut shapes out of it. So I remember cutting the preserving the waste which was kind of left over out of that, and creating products out of it. So that was probably always there in me. And I feel that as a designer, I would probably call it out to other fellow designers who want to start up something of their own, or who want to kind of work into a direction and are looking for a direction. I would just kind of suggest that we should look for a problem in the not just in the industry, but a problem in general, and we should try to solve it. We should try to give a solution to that problem. So and we should take this responsibility on our own shoulders, and we can't just say that okay, if the ice caps are melting at the North Pole or the South Pole, it's not really affecting me. You can't say that, because there's only one planet, and if this gets destroyed, then there is no other second home that we have, right? So um if so coming back to the problems, simple problems like the snow caps, then the landfills, the size of the landfills are increasing. And it's sustainability is not a fad. It's not a trend that, okay, sustainability is so in these days. It is a need of the hour, and we need to take an action today. So this is what I kind of want to send as a message. And I want to also mention the fact that we have a lot of I don't want to challenge so many industries, and there'll be so many fingers pointed at me. I don't want to say that the trends which are set, the fashion forecast which is set, that's probably the thing that teenagers should follow so blindly. Because I feel that if you have bought a garment, and if you have bought a product, you should probably make use of that product completely till that product ceases to exist. And upcycling and DIY, and utilizing products till the end, is something which is important. And following trends and fads blindly is something that is not right. Because I read it on Facebook somewhere, that somebody was commenting on somebody's shoes. It's a very vague example, but the fact that there were white shoes which were in some time ago, and the fact that certain things are in and now they're out, this concept doesn't fit into my head. You see that you need to, if you bought something, just utilize it. You see, you can't just discard it because it is out of fashion. So this is one line of thought that I have. It may be wrong, but that's how I feel.
I completely agree with you, Swati, because the people and the entrepreneurs who are in this sector are in their heart rag pickers.
Yeah, that's true.
Have always been, collecting stuff, however small, however irrelevant. And that also comes, we takes us to the next point, that these products are all very unique products. Each one is different from the other. So that's again, reaching out to the consumers, that if consumers are looking for the same thing, a mass product, that's not what we are catering to.
That's true.
Catering to a niche product which is unique, which can be customized, and but which is made with a lot of attention to detail, with a lot of love, and with a lot of time. So a lot of resources go into making each of these products, and that is something the consumer has to be made aware of if we have to make it profitable. Otherwise, yes, you do it, you use it for yourself, but to make it profitable, it's very important for the consumers to be aware as well. Uh, Thank you so much, Archana, Hina, Nelson, Swati, for delivering on such key issues of social accountability, circular economy, and sustainability of sustainable organizations. What we really enjoyed are your journeys. Each one of you are a leader to embark on a brave world and to impact transformation. I'm confident this will greatly inspire many, many more entrepreneurs to join this exciting sector. Thank you so much. Ananya, you would like to say something?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay. So I would like to present because of shortage of time. So I would like to, take this opportunity to present a question which a student has asked from the panelists. So the question is, as majority of the industry does not support government orders for less than 100 pieces, what are the strategies we can adopt to decrease the production volume, that is the number of garment pieces we produce, and still achieve profitability? So this question is asked by our student Jaspreet Kaur. So if anyone would like to answer, so that would be nice. So her question is how to decrease our production uh, in spite of retaining our profits.
Maintain profitability even at low scale production.
Maintain profitability even at low scale of production. So this is the question.
The price is okay. Sorry. Yeah, Swati.
Go on, go on.
No, Swati.
Okay, so I mean, the question appeared to be slightly vague to me. Maybe there are some details missing here and there. I was thinking that if you're talking about, I'm guessing low number of products, and
Swati,
you're saying,
can I just add on? Yeah, I
yes,
believe what the student intends to ask is that with when you are working on upcycling, recycling, the challenges are myriad where you face as to if the order quantities are very less.
mm-hmm.
We are not following the basics of scale production, mass scale of production. So how do you maintain profitability in that context is what the
Okay.
student wants to ask.
Yeah. So, I mean, if the, let's say the order quantity is less than 100, your prices would probably vary as per that. If you are, I mean, it's a simple philosophy that we follow at our company, where let's say if the number of pieces that are on order are 50 and not 100, or let's say not 500, then the prices would be, given differently. So the prices would be, let's say on retail, the retail prices would be given. And that's how you kind of make a better margin. Versus if, let's say, the number of, the quantity, the order quantity is, let's say 500, then my prices are going to be significantly reduced. And hence the profit is not on each piece, but on the ticket size. Right. Have I answered?
Girija ji, if you allow me, I would like to add a little bit.
Yes, please, Archana.
Yeah. So again, I'm not from the designer side, but again, talking about the social aspects of industries. As I mentioned, we work on several projects, and one of the projects that right now I'm working on is a production capacity calculator for garment industry. Now, this is again taking into so many minute details of factors of production, which includes order quantity as well. And as I mentioned, we talked about so many programs where we have done so much saving. It again, as Swati mentioned, that is from the designer perspective, but talking about the production capacity factors perspective, and also we know some of the initiatives, like all those companies who adhere to certain principles like we talked about. uh, we have something called as better buying initiatives, purchasing practices. So these are influenced, the buying practices and purchasing practices get influenced by such initiatives. When you demonstrate that, look, your cost of production is not just making a garment, but also taking care of the people who do this, like the women or the men, and also going a little more into their lives and then demonstrating, look, this is how I'm managing. Then we have buyers who get influenced, their purchasing practices get influenced, and then they make a different decision. Like I shared about the living wage, today itself I was attending again a webinar on living wage, and we had an example from one of the companies in Tamil Nadu, Tirupur. I'm sure all of you are from the fashion and garment industry. You all know Tirupur, Karur, and Panipat. These are the areas where we have all these garment manufacturing companies. So this company, uh, they demonstrated to the buyer, and then the buyer, again a brand, I cannot name the company and the brand, but then they increased their prices by say 10 cents on every piece, which helped this company. So I mean, this is just an example, but I'm sure when we do all these things in our own, one is of course cutting down your cost of production by several initiatives, because the production capacity calculator is going to help the small companies. See, the big companies, they have all skilled people, highly competent people to be able to do all these management, they have highly management qualified people. But the small, especially SMEs, they really don't have the resources, competent resources to manage all this. So there we try to help them. And in fact, right now, I would like to just share that we have a project. We have in fact a global funding to carry on this project of production capacity calculator. We've already successfully done this in Bangladesh, and we want to do this in India. But unfortunately, due to this pandemic, I'm not able to get some of the companies who would be volunteering to take up this, and this is free of cost. We are going to train them. We are going to provide a production capacity calculator to these industries, the small industries, and maybe informal sector as well. But because of the pandemic, and none of the companies, because of lockdown, they don't have workers, they don't have orders, so for all those reasons, they're not fully capable to take it on. But in case if anybody wants to participate in this project, please contact me, and we can work on maybe 10-15 garment or textile factories. We can help them free of cost, train them on social aspects, as well as help them to create this production capacity calculator. Thank you.
Most of the things it is seen that, yeah.
For your answers. There's another question. Nayan, would you like to say something?
No, just, one key point that most of, when those who are into product manufacturing, basically there are two types of products they have. One is a regular product, some things that they regularly make, like, cushion covers, or, tote bags, like, Swati mentioned. And there are some, so they have a fixed price. So those prices don't change over a period of time. And then there are some products which are pre-ordered. So there is the price negotiation already happens before the product is manufactured. So then the question doesn't arise whether you're making in bulk or whether you're making in small batches. It only depends on the price that you have agreed with the client. So I think this is something which the two models are quite different, and they have to kind of go on side by side. This is something we have to remember.
Okay, thank you, Nayan. I think Jaspreet would have got her answer. And there is another question which was asked just now, that sustainability is becoming a big drive. So how does the finishing processes change, or how it catches up to sustainability? So Mr. Nelson, would you like to answer that?
Okay. Yeah, of course. I just wrote a more exhaustive answer, but I would just say briefly that, because sustainability has become a term whose definition a lot of different stakeholders have different opinions on, or may not even agree on for different reasons. At this point, the processing industry will have to really kind of justify how they're being sustainable. It won't be enough for them to say to a client or to civil society justify how it is that they're reducing waste, how it is that they're being more efficient, how is it that they're treating their employees well. And there are tools for that, whether it's from Social Accountability International, from the B Lab, they have a B assessment, or even a UNDP recently released the Business Integrity Toolkit. So those are some tools that these companies are using because they know that they have to answer those questions, not just to the people who pay them, but also to the communities that they're in, to government, etc.
Okay, thank you, Nelson. And now I would request all the other attendees to give their thoughts. They could share their thoughts, views, and suggestions on webinarniftdelhi@gmail.com, because right now we are having short of time to discuss any further questions. So now I would like to propose my vote of thanks. So I, Ananya, on behalf of National Institute of Fashion Technology and the entire webinar team, comprising of myself and my colleague, Ms. Girija Jha, I would like to extend a very hearty vote of thanks to Director NIFT Delhi, Professor Dr. Vandana Narang, for her constant guidance, Campus Academic Coordinator Ms. Bhavna Kapoor Verma for her support, all the esteemed speakers and guests whom I would like to name here as the fraternity of sustainable entrepreneurship. A big thank you to Dr. Nian Mitra, today's moderator, for her efforts towards elucidating on the topic of sustainable organization, the need of the hour. We are especially grateful for your easy clarification of the complex terminology, sustainable organization. Thank you, ma'am. I also wish to express my gratitude to Ms. Archana Panda for providing information on SaaS and especially the social fingerprint program. I must also mention our deep sense of appreciation for Ms. Hina Khalid for her explaining on how a design with less materials with very practical suggestions and ideas can be performed. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to express our sincere thanks to Nelson Iguma for giving an excellent coverage of the UN Sustainability Goals, as well as your narration of the work that is done by Sathi Ventures. Thank you, sir. Further, we are grateful to Ms. Swati Soharia for demonstrating her utilization of textile industry waste pieces and the journey this waste undergoes to take the shape of beautiful products that can be finally sold in the market. So great job, Swati. Thank you. And now I would like to thank all of you again for gracing this webinar today. Thank you.
Okay, the whole team, can we have a thumbs up? Thank you, Bhavna ma'am. Thank you, Nayan ma'am, and thank you everybody, everyone. Okay.